Why 1 million isn't enough. What if I told you that $1 million, the number so many Americans spend their whole working life chasing, might not even be enough to retire comfortably today? It sounds almost unbelievable, doesn't it? For decades, $1 million was the golden number. Reach 1 million and you're set for life. But something has quietly changed, and most retirees are finding out the hard way, usually a few years into retirement, when the money starts disappearing faster than they ever expected. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why $1 million doesn't stretch the way it used to, what's silently eating away at retirement savings, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it starting today, no matter how close you are to retirement. If you find this kind of practical, honest retirement advice helpful, do me a quick favor and hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to Mr. Retiree. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are trying to protect their savings. Here's what we're going to cover together. I'll show you the real reason $1 million buys so much less than it used to. We'll talk about the hidden costs that quietly drain retirement accounts, the ones nobody warns you about. I'll walk you through a real, relatable story of a couple who thought they were financially ready, and what actually happened once they retired. Then we'll get into the strategies that can stretch your savings further and give you real peace of mind. Stay with me until the end, because the final strategy is the one that catches most retirees completely off guard. Let's start with the foundation. Back in the year 2000, $1 million felt like an enormous cushion. Groceries were cheaper, healthcare costs were lower, housing was more affordable. Fast forward to today, and that same $1 million doesn't carry nearly the same weight, because prices for everyday essentials have climbed steadily year after year. This is what we call inflation, and in simple terms, it just means your money buys less over time. But here's where things get interesting, because inflation isn't the only silent thief working against retirees. Imagine you retire with exactly $1 million sitting in your 401k or your IRA. On paper, that looks incredible. But that number is misleading because it doesn't account for taxes. Most of that money has never been taxed yet, so when you start withdrawing it in retirement, a chunk goes straight to federal taxes, and depending on where you live, possibly state taxes too. That $1 million might really be closer to $700,000 or $800,000 in actual spending power once taxes take their bite. And that brings us to another point most retirees don't think about until it's too late: healthcare costs. Medicare helps enormously, but it doesn't cover everything, and there's something called IRMAA, which stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. In plain English, if your retirement income crosses certain thresholds, the government charges you more for your Medicare premiums. Many retirees get blindsided by this because they didn't realize that pulling too much money out of their retirement accounts in a single year could quietly push their Medicare premiums higher the following year. Most retirees never realize what happens next, so let's talk about it honestly. Let me introduce you to a couple I want you to imagine alongside me: Robert and Karen, from a quiet town in Ohio. Robert is 64, Karen is 62, and after 35 years of careful saving, they proudly reached $1 million combined in their retirement accounts, mostly sitting in traditional 401k plans. They felt confident. They felt ready. They pictured visiting grandchildren, taking a long-awaited trip to see the coast, and finally slowing down. But here's where their story takes an unexpected turn. In their first year of retirement, Robert and Karen withdrew around $80,000 from their 401k to cover living expenses, some home repairs, and a family trip. Felt reasonable to them. But because that entire withdrawal was fully taxable, combined with a small pension Robert had, their taxable income ended up higher than expected. That pushed them into a higher tax bracket than planned, and it also increased their Medicare premiums the following year because of that IRMAA rule. They weren't reckless. They simply didn't understand how the pieces fit together, because nobody had ever explained it to them in plain language. This is exactly why understanding your retirement income strategy matters just as much as the amount you've saved. So let's talk about what actually works, because this is where you can take back control. The first strategy involves diversifying where your money sits, not just how it's invested, but how it's taxed. Traditional 401k and IRA accounts are taxed when you withdraw. Roth IRA accounts, on the other hand, are funded with money you've already paid taxes on, so qualified withdrawals in retirement come out completely tax-free. Imagine having 3 buckets of money, one taxable, one tax-deferred, and one tax-free. That flexibility lets you pull from different buckets depending on your income needs each year, helping you stay in a lower tax bracket and avoid Medicare premium surprises. Exploring Roth conversions, gradually moving money from a traditional account into a Roth account while paying taxes now at a potentially lower rate, can be one of the smartest moves you make. It's not right for everyone, which is exactly why speaking with a qualified financial or tax professional matters here. Let's build on that because timing plays an enormous role too. You can claim Social Security as early as age 62, but claiming early permanently reduces your monthly benefit. Waiting until your full retirement age gives you your full benefit, and waiting even longer all the way until age 70 increases your monthly check by roughly 8% for every year you delay. Picture two neighbors, both eligible for roughly $2,000 a month at full retirement age. One claims at 62 and locks in a permanently reduced check, closer to $1,400. The other waits until 70, and their check grows to somewhere around $2,400 a month. Over 20 or 25 years, that gap can add up to well over $100,000 in extra lifetime income for the one who waited. Delaying isn't possible for everyone, but understanding the trade-off helps you decide based on facts rather than fear. We'll come back to how these pieces connect in just a moment, but let's talk about required minimum distributions. Once you reach age 73, the government requires you to start withdrawing a minimum amount from your traditional retirement accounts every year, whether you need the money or not. These forced withdrawals are fully taxable, and if you haven't planned ahead, they can push you into a higher tax bracket and trigger those Medicare premium increases, even if you didn't need that money that year. This is exactly why Roth conversions in your early retirement years, before RMDs kick in, can be so powerful. You're paying taxes on your terms, rather than being forced into it later. Now let's go back to Robert and Karen, because their story doesn't end on a bad note. After that first challenging year, they sat down with a financial advisor who helped them build a smarter withdrawal strategy. Instead of pulling large lump sums, they began withdrawing smaller, strategic amounts each year, supplementing their income with a small taxable brokerage account, and slowly converting a portion of their 401k into a Roth IRA during years when their taxable income was lower. Within a couple of years, their tax bill dropped, their Medicare premiums stabilized, and they felt confident again. They realized reaching $1 million wasn't the finish line. Learning how to use it wisely was the real victory. This is where many people accidentally make an expensive mistake. Don't assume a bigger nest egg automatically means a stress-free retirement. On the flip side, someone with a more modest nest egg who plans carefully, understands their tax brackets, times their Social Security wisely, and diversifies their accounts, can often enjoy a more comfortable retirement than someone with more money but no strategy. Here's the strategy that catches most retirees off guard, something called sequence of returns risk. Two retirees can have the exact same average investment return over 20 years and end up in completely different financial situations, simply because of the order those returns happened in. Imagine retiring right as the market drops, and being forced to sell investments at a loss just to cover living expenses in those early years. That's why many retirees keep 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash or something stable, so a bad market year never forces them into selling at the worst possible time. Let's build a simple, practical yearly routine you can keep in mind. Review your account types and understand how much sits in taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free accounts. Think carefully about your Social Security claiming age based on your health, income needs, and family history of longevity. Plan withdrawals strategically rather than pulling large lump sums whenever it's convenient. Watch your income levels each year to avoid unnecessary Medicare premium increases, especially 2 years before any large withdrawal, since IRMAA looks back at prior tax returns. Consider Roth conversions during lower income years before RMDs begin. And revisit your entire plan every single year, because tax laws and circumstances change. At the end of the day, retirement isn't just about a number sitting in an account. It's about freedom. It's about seeing your grandchildren without worrying about the cost of the plane ticket. It's about peace of mind, knowing that when unexpected bills show up, you're prepared rather than panicked. That peace of mind comes from understanding how your money works, how it's taxed, and how to make it last as long as you do. Before we wrap up, this video is meant for educational purposes to help you understand these concepts in plain language. Everyone's financial situation is different, so it's always wise to sit down with a qualified financial advisor or tax professional who can look at your specific numbers. Whether you have $500,000, $1 million, or considerably more, you have more control over your retirement outcome than you might think. The people who struggle in retirement aren't always the ones with less money. They're often the ones who never took the time to understand how their money works once they stop earning a paycheck. And you, simply by watching this video, are already ahead of so many people who never bother to ask these questions until it's too late. I want to leave you with a simple question, and I genuinely love to hear your answer in the comments below. If you're already retired or getting close to it, what's one thing about retirement income or taxes that has surprised you the most? And if you found this video helpful, please share it with a friend or family member who's planning for retirement. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Take care of yourself, take care of your money, and I'll see you in the next video.